Okay. All right. I just started recording it. All right. You guys can all hear me if I'm standing this far away? We're good? Okay. All right. So first things first, before we get going on the notes today, is that Monday, the 11th, is the last day for any late work at all. Okay. That's the last day for test retakes, for quiz retakes, to turn in your parallels paper, the final draft that a lot of you haven't done, to turn in anything. Okay. So it's the last day for that period. Are we all clear? Give me a thumbs up if you understand. You're good? Okay. What happens if you come to me on Tuesday and you're crying? You're like, oh, Mr. Veenstra, I really need to turn in my work. What am I going to do? Nothing. I won't let you turn it in. I will take your tears and they will fuel me into the next quarter. It'll give me power, right? What if your mommy comes in on Wednesday and she's crying and she says, oh, my dear Michael is the best student in the world. Please take his work late. What am I going to do? I'm going to take your mother's tears and your tears and use them to fuel me in the next quarter. Okay? I think that I'm, joking aside, I think that I am very reasonable with my due dates, very reasonable with light work, very reasonable about these kinds of things, right? Which is why the 11th, Monday the 11th is a hard day. I need to have time to grade it. Okay? Are we all, do we understand each other? Do any of you guys have any questions or problems or comments, or we're good? We're all good? Cool.
It's at Monday the 11th.
Monday the 11th, it's next Monday. Yeah, 6 days from now. Cool?
But at 11:59 p.m., right? Or is it?
At midnight on Monday, all of the assignments will lock and you won't be able to access them or see them. Cool?
Okay.
Cool. All right. So at the end of apartheid, we are 1990. It's 1994. We've had our elections. We've just elected Nelson Mandela, and I'm going to tell you right now, the entire world is cheering and happy, and South Africans are cheering and happy for a moment. But the day after the election is the day where the entire world kind of takes a breath and goes, "Oh, what's going to happen?" Right? South Africa looks like it's on the verge of a civil war. It looks like it's going to collapse. Okay? South Africa looks like it may not exist very much longer, right? Some South Africans are trying to say that maybe they need to, some South Africans are saying, maybe they need to kill all the white people, right? Some are saying we need to kill them all. We need to take all their stuff. Some are saying we need to kick them out of our country, maybe give them a week to get out of the country. And if they're not out, we kill them, right? Some are saying it's time to have a Zulu country and a Xhosa country, right? Like South Africa looks like it's about 5 minutes away from a civil war. And the entire world is waiting to see what's going on, right? So we're not 100% sure. What I want you guys to do is in your notes, we're going to take a full blank page and we're going to divide it off into 8 parts, 8 sections in your notes. And what we're going to do is we're going to define 8 different things that have to be solved in order to prevent civil war. Okay? And we're going to kind of brainstorm some ideas today. And then in the next class period, I'll present you what South Africa actually started to do about these issues. Okay? So give me some 8 categories. What we'll do is I'm going to be putting them up on my screen here. So hopefully you guys can all see. They got me like a nice new camera that should work better, hopefully, right? So if I need to, I can move it forward and zoom in on you guys, okay? All right, so Kira, why don't you start us off? What is one really big, broad category of problems that needs to get fixed?
Poverty for the Black people.
Okay, poverty for Black people. Okay, so let's call that economics. That's one of our big ones, okay? Alex, give me another one. Alex is just sitting there. All right, Drew, give me Drew and then Raul, you're next.
Cultural impacts.
Okay, cultural issues. All right. Raul and then Tyler, you're next after Raul.
Education.
Okay. Okay. Can you see all those? Yeah. We're good. Okay. All right. Tyler and then Manvith, you're next after Tyler.
Government or politics.
Okay. All right. Manvith, then Yash.
I'm not actually sure.
Oh, that's the worst answer. Come on, man. All right. Yash, and then we're going back to Alex.
Like rights and a constitution and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we're going to put that under political. Let's try to think of another category. Okay, Alex, what else you got? Alex and then Michael Zong. Alex, you got to unmute yourself, man.
Does ethics, is that under?
Ethics probably is a cultural thing, probably.
Okay.
Okay. Michael Zong, then Tiffany.
Maybe the segregation that they already had.
Okay. Segregation specifically what? Because segregation's kind of in everything. What do you?
The past laws, stuff like that. Housing. Okay.
Yeah, let's put it in housing. Segregation in housing, though Michael's correct. Segregation basically goes in every single category, right? But all right, Tiffany, what else can you get? Tiffany, then Ilha.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
I'm just moving political to the other side.
Last building.
I'm gonna give you the other ones here. We're gonna put workers, right? I'm gonna divide economics up a little bit. We'll divide economics up a little bit. We'll have workers over here. Okay, what else do we have? Do we have at least two more other ones that we think? Anybody unmute yourself and chime in.
So I was gonna say infrastructure, but that kind of includes like housing and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, infrastructure is a good one. Infrastructure, it's going to kind of be in a couple of these categories, right? The one that I'm thinking of is law enforcement. And foreign. So law enforcement and foreign relations. Okay. All right. So I think that this is a pretty solid, like, broad categories. We could divide it up other ways, right? But I think this works for the way that the discussion needs to go. I think this will work. So under each one of these, we need to identify things that needs to be fixed. Okay. All of these represent specific problems that need to be fixed. All right. So let's get started. Let's start with housing. Let's hear from Kira, Yash, and Michael Zong. I want the three of you guys to tell me what needs to get fixed in housing issues.
They need to desegregate the neighborhoods.
Okay. Okay, what else can we put in there? Yash and Tyler? Or yeah.
They need to make it so like Black people can actually buy houses, so the banking systems and stuff are actually accepting of their stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to put banking up in the economy, but you're right, Yash. It can go in either category. Yeah. Okay. Michael, then Tyler. Michael Zong and then Tyler.
I don't know. One of like the reasons they were living in these like what shanty towns was like because of like employment and stuff. So they should probably find different ways of employment, something like that.
Yeah. So we need to deal with these squatter settlements, right? Michael's talking about these shanty towns. We need to deal with these squatter settlements. Under squatter settlements, I'm not going to write it here, but in your notes, I want you to put here that you need jobs. They need jobs, but they also need infrastructure, right? Ilha mentioned infrastructure earlier, and I think this is where it's most importantly going to go, right? Is that infrastructure needs to include, it needs to include like plumbing and electricity, right? Plumbing, electricity, and hospitals and roads and sewer systems and all that stuff, right? At this point in time, at the election of 1994, more than a third of South Africa lives without electricity. This is 1994, and a third of the country has no electricity. That's insane, right? It's insane for any country in the 1990s to be living like that, right? Okay, Tyler, what else can you think about in the housing? There's one big one that I feel like we're missing.
I don't know. I was gonna say squatter settlements, but like, would like the Bantustans fit in there?
Yeah, I think we need to address the Bantustans. Yeah, I think you're right. When I'm telling you that no one has electricity, we're mostly talking about Bantustans, right? The Bantustans have basically no electricity. All right, so let's get going. Let's do another one of these. All right, let's go education. What needs to be addressed in education? Michael Liu, then Alex, and then Wen Tao. Let's have you three be our education folks.
Just black school, like primarily black neighborhood, like their school funding.
Okay, we need more black schools, right? More black schools. We need more black schools. Underneath that, I want you to put that there are basically zero government schools in the squatter settlements and zero government schools in the Bantustans. Okay, I want you to put that in your notes, even though I'm not going to be putting them all up on my board here, but there's basically zero schools, okay? And you can make a note on the side. The only schools that really exist in the Bantustans are Christian missionary schools that teach English and Christianity, right? Those are the kinds of schools that like Mandela and Sisulu and Sobukwe, right? That they all went to these Christian missionary schools. And so the only reason why they have any education at all is because they went to a Christian missionary school, right? That's not really sustainable. The government needs to be running schools, and it's not, basically. Okay. Drew, did you have something?
No, I was just going to add on to the education part.
Yeah. What do you got, man?
We need to address the 30% black literacy rate between mathematics and English.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's deal with some of these numbers real quick. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Yeah. Okay, I double checked it. All right, so here's the numbers that you need for literacy rate. All right, so the literacy rate in the country, 24% of South Africans, this is in 1994, 24% of South Africans have never stepped foot in a school ever, no education. 24%, a full quarter of the country, okay? 38% of the country has less than a 6th grade education. So 24% of the country has never stepped foot in a school ever. 38% of the country has less than a 6th grade education. Okay, this means that our illiteracy rate is functionally something like 60%, right? 60% of the country is functionally illiterate. And math illiteracy is a concept that didn't really exist in the 90s, but it's a concept that we in the education world have defined now. Math literacy is also a problem, right? They're doing math at less than a 6th grade level, right? The best among them, the best are doing math at like a 6th grade level. Okay, so this is insane. It's really, really bad. Okay, let's move to, let's deal with economic issues, okay? What other economic issues need to be addressed? Let's start with Wen Tao. Wen Tao, I skipped you last time, I'm sorry. So let's go with Wen Tao and Raul. Let's get some economic issues.
Would employment count? We need a higher employment among African Americans, or would that go under work?
Yeah, I'm going to put it under workers. I'm going to put it under workers, but it's a fuzzy category, right? It could go in either category, but I like to put it in workers. What else do we need to put in the economy? Should be like one really big major goal. Who was the other person I said?
The
Yeah.
larger domestic market.
Yeah, let's put that. We need to, then we need to increase the domestic market, okay? The domestic market has basically nobody here, okay? What else do we need to do to the South African economy if we're going to increase its wealth? What does it have to do? Anybody unmute yourself and chime in.
Shouldn't we address the black market?
Yeah, we can put it in here, the black market. The black market might go under law enforcement as well, right? It could go in either one, but whatever, as long as we're addressing it somewhere. Okay, what else?
Raise the minimum wage.
Yeah, so let's put wages down here. I'm going to put that with workers, but you're absolutely correct. Under workers, let's also put wealth inequality. Let's get a number attached to that. Let's get a number attached to that. In 1994, 90% of the wealth of the country is owned by less than 10% of the population. Okay, white South Africa owns 90% of all property and money in the country and all companies. Okay, all right. The other thing that I'm thinking about with the economy is that you need to diversify the economy. Right? If your entire economy is based on one product, you got a real problem, right? If your entire economy is based on diamonds and then the diamond market falls apart, then your entire economy goes into a spiral, right? You need to have diamonds plus computers and textiles and beef and fishing and robotic hummingbirds. I don't really care what it is, but it needs to have options, right? You need to have other things that are going in there. Right? And the South African economy right now has basically nothing. Okay, let's deal with the foreign stuff, foreign relations. What's the priority here with foreign relations? Ilha, I'd like you to start us off and then we'll go to Dhruv.
I mean, like, just try to make, like, ameliorate past, like, failed relations, like, with the Commonwealth and, like, other countries.
Yeah.
Just by, like, improving race relations, basically. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put it as repair supranational organizational relationships. And the word we're looking for is supranational, S-U-P-R-A, national, not supernatural. Supernatural would be like unicorns and things, right? Supranational means like organizations of countries. Okay, what's the most important organization that they need to repair their relationship with? Number one, and I want you to put number 1, 2, 3. We'll give you 3 organizations. What's number 1 that they have to repair? Anybody?
Commonwealth.
Say what?
The Commonwealth.
Yeah, let's put the Commonwealth as number 2. So the British Commonwealth is number 2. What else?
Would it be the United Nations?
The UN.
Yeah, the UN. Yeah, I think that was Manvith, I think. Yeah, let's put the United Nations as number 1. So the UN is number 1. The British Commonwealth, we're going to put that as number 2. And then number 3 is one we haven't talked about in class, but I'm going to put the African Union. The African Union, that's an alliance of African countries. It's kind of like the European Union, but it's not as good. It's just not as powerful, not as organized. It doesn't have as much money. Okay, so they need to repair these relationships. Once you start repairing these relationships, what do you need? What are they asking for, Yash?
Trade.
Okay, so they need trade. So you need to remove like embargoes and stuff. Remove embargoes that are placed on you. So you need to start trade again. There's something else. What does South Africa need from a country like the United States? It doesn't just need us to buy their diamonds. What does it need? What are you thinking? Yeah, Kira.
Protection?
No, not who's going to attack South Africa? What are they going to do? Like Swaziland, you know? What are they going to do? Throw
Foreign aid.
foreign aid. Yeah, foreign aid. So they do need foreign aid, but they also need foreign investment. Okay. Foreign aid and foreign investment. Okay, foreign aid and foreign investment are different things. Foreign aid is usually like charity, right? It's usually like charity where they're like giving you money for, you know, vaccinations or something like that, right? That's aid. Foreign investment is where you have a foreign company come in and spend money in your country, and you get a percentage of the money back. Okay, so this happens in the 1990s. Nigeria discovered oil, and they discovered that they're sitting on like the third or fourth largest collection of oil in the world, right? But Nigeria it's a country of like, at this point in time, it's a country of like donkeys and machine guns, right? Like they can't drill oil to save their soul, right? So what they do is they go to Texas and ask ExxonMobil to come and drill their oil. And ExxonMobil says, sure, we're going to take half your profits, right? And we'll drill your oil. We'll drill your oil, we'll package it up, we'll sell it around the world, and we're going to take, you know, 2/3 of your profits or something. Nigeria takes the deal, right? Because if they take the deal, they're getting 1/3 of the profit or half of the profit. If they don't take the deal, they're getting nothing, right? Oil in the ground is not worth anything. It's just oil in the ground, right? So South Africa needs that too. And so this foreign investment is going to come in the form of like German construction companies coming down and showing them how to build railroads or how to build interstate freeway systems or something like that, right? If they're doing it correctly, then the foreign companies are training the locals on how to do those skills. Okay? All right. The foreign investment, what countries do you think is going to be the #1 foreign investment? I'm going to tell you now, it's not England. It's not England, the Netherlands, or the United States. Who do you think it's going to be? Michael Liu, who do you think? You don't know. You can't think
No
of it.
idea. No idea.
Anybody? Anybody? Drew, you got an idea? China. It's going to be China. China is actually going to invest something like 10 times more than any other country. Yeah. China is actually heavily invested across the entire continent of Africa. Chinese investments are something like 30 or 40 times more than every other country. It's massive, massive investments, right? Okay, let's get to law enforcement. Let's deal with law enforcement. Yeah, Drew?
What exactly does China invest in? Is it just a variety of things, or is there something specific?
China's investing in all sorts of stuff, tons and tons of stuff. It depends on the country, right? In Ethiopia, they're building a freeway system. In Ethiopia, they're building a freeway system. In Tanzania, they're building a railroad, right? It depends on what the country wants. China's invested in almost every single country across Africa, almost everyone, yeah. And it remains to be seen how this is going to work, right? Because China is, well, that's a whole nother class. We can talk about that a whole lot later, but China is possibly going to exploit Africa. We're not 100% sure yet. We don't know yet, right? Okay, let's talk law enforcement. All right, let's get started with law enforcement. Why don't we start us off? Let's start us off with Tiffany. Tiffany and then Alex.
I'm assuming that the law enforcement doesn't only has like white people in it, so maybe like integrate Black police officers or other races.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. The term that South Africa uses for that is de-racialize. So when you do the reading and stuff, that's the term they're going to use. But Americans would use the word integrate. South Africans use the word de-racialize. That's fine, right? We have a real problem here in South Africa that 100% of your police force is white and 85% of your population is Black, right? if 85% of your population is black, then 85% of your police force should be black as well, right? Okay, what else? What else, Alex?
Maybe just
Kira,
try to say what?
I'm sorry, Kira, you're next. All right, Alex, go.
I don't know how to what term, maybe like make it instead of a police versus the people type thing, make it more like police for the people.
Okay. In America, we would call that community policing, is the term you're looking for in the United States. That's not a South African term. They would probably include that as deracialized, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say here is you're going to have to address police brutality. That's what you're getting at, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have to reduce brutality. We have to deal with police brutality, okay? Kira, there's at least 2 more things that I think are really important that we need to address. Maybe 3. All right, so what do you got?
I was gonna say police brutality, but maybe take away some of their power and like their military grade weapons if they had those.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of other real issues, real problem issues here, okay? If we listen to Tiffany, and I think it was Tiffany who said that we have to bring in blacks into the police force, I think, was that Tiffany or was that, I don't remember who said that. Anyway, whoever said that, right? If we listen to them and we bring them in, that's good, right? But what do you do with all the white cops? What do you do with them?
They have to find a way to like, I don't want to say like re-educate, but they have to learn new laws and like try to like make them, I don't know how to say it, but they have to like relearn how to police, I guess.
Yeah, so do you retrain them? Can you retrain a white apartheid cop? Right, if we have like a white apartheid cop who for the last 25 years has been brutalizing and murdering black people, right, shooting students in Soweto, can we retrain that guy? What do you do? And even if you put that guy in jail, let's say we have one cop who did kill somebody, and we put him in jail, what do we do with the other 300 on the force that let it happen? Do we have white instructors teaching black students, and then as soon as those black students get their badge, they arrest their instructors and throw them in jail? Right? This is a real problem. This is a really massive problem that we're dealing with here, right? Yash, if I were to murder your children, okay? So Yash, I've murdered your kid. I murdered your kid. What has to happen for you to be at peace?
There's probably nothing. I mean, like, you never be at peace, but I guess you'd have to get like your revenge or something like that. Justice in the system.
Yeah. What has to happen? Maybe at peace is not the right way to phrase that. What has to happen in order for you to be able to move on?
They have to be punished.
Yeah. Same question for you, Tiffany. If I've murdered your children, what has to happen?
You should die.
Sure, right?
Yeah, like there's an equal punishment to your thing, but I feel like if all the cops that did that would be punished, there'd be another issue because you'd have to start the whole system over again, and it's not something South Africa could do right now.
Yeah, we got a real problem in South Africa, and the problem is that the cops who live down the street murdered your family, right? And nothing ever happened to them. That's a real issue. So what we're going to do, I don't have a solution for it yet. What we're going to do is we're going to put it down here. With a really heavy question mark on it, because it's a real problem. What do you do with these cops? Now, on the flip side, what do you do with the terrorists? What do you do with MK? Right? In the story of the fall of apartheid, MK are kind of the good guys, right? If there's any good guys in this story at all, right? MK is kind of the good guys, but we can't forget that MK are also terrorists, right? The good guys are throwing grenades into the baby cribs, right? That doesn't sound like good guys to me, right? And so we need to deal with the racist cop who's murdering people on the streets, but we also need to deal with the terrorist who's murdering people in their sleep. Right? Okay. All right. Let's go to political. Okay. What needs to be done politically speaking? Politically speaking, let's go Raul, Tyler, and Manvith. I want to hear from you three.
Kind of the same issue with the police force, how the government is mostly run by white Britishers.
Okay.
So there needs to be deracializing.
Right. So we need to preserve the vote and representation, right? Voting and representation go together, right? Once you can start voting, then you can also start electing your people. And Raul, I think you hit the nail on the head right away with like one of the biggest political issues. Okay, 1994, we have a multiracial election. The election happens, but think back to the United States. Think in the United States history in the 1870s, what's happening to the vote in the American South in the 1870s? What happens to the black vote down there? Zong, what happened? Or who else? Go through.
Isn't it voided?
Say it again?
Isn't it just like nullified or something?
Yeah, the black vote is nullified. Why? How did they do it? How did white Southerners take away black votes? Did they repeal the 15th Amendment? No. What did they do? Oh no, this is very bad. You guys should know this. What did they do?
They threatened them.
Right, so violence, right? What else? Like KKK violence, but what else?
Like literacy tests, like those like tests they gave.
Yep, absolutely. Literacy tests, poll taxes, violence, right? And cultural norms, okay? So what you need to put in here under voting representation is you need to put in here that we need some way to avoid the problems of the American South, right? The Jim Crow South. We need to avoid what the Jim Crow South did. And fortunately for South Africa, they have the Jim Crow South to look at, and they can look at it and see, oh, that's how the Americans screwed things up. We are not going to make the American problem, right? America didn't have anyone to look at, right? In some ways, you can almost excuse the United States in some ways, because it's like the 1870s. There are no other democracies in the world, right? We're like the only one, right? We're the only democracy to ever come out of a war. We're the only democracy to try to integrate a new race into our culture, right? We're the only democracy to ever do that. So we don't really know what it's supposed to look like. And boy, do we really screw it up. Man, we really did, right? But South Africa can at least look and say, wow, America really jacked that up. I don't want to jack it up that way, right? So South Africa is going to find all new ways to jack it up. Okay, all right. Is apartheid one law? No. Apartheid is thousands of laws written through the entire code, right? Thousands of laws, everything from like, you know, who gets what parking spot all the way to who gets to be president, right? It's every single law from the top to the bottom is written with apartheid in it. Can they really go through every single law and deracialize them all? Like, how practical is it to do that? Extremely difficult, right? Extremely difficult. So what they need a new constitution. They need a new constitution, and we need to spend a moment with constitutions. This is a very, very common question on the IB exam. a very common question, because we're one of the sections of our exam is on the development of democracy, right? So we're doing the rights and protest, the independence movements, and the development of democracy. Development of democracy, one of the core issues that they address is the development of a constitution. We haven't talked about it yet because the American Constitution is too old, right? But this is our first new constitution that we're getting. So you need to understand this, and you need to be able to articulate this into an essay, okay? So what I need you to do is on the side or wherever you have space, let's write for a constitution. What's the point of a constitution? Why have one? What's the point of it? You need to be able to articulate why the constitution is important. All right, so anybody chime in. There's 5 or 6 reasons why a constitution is important. So why is a constitution important? What do we need? Yash, start us off, man.
It's a point that you can refer back to for any like future laws or future problems that may arise.
So it's the basis of all future laws in your country. Okay, that's one. All right, Dhruv and then Raul.
It protects the people's natural given rights from the government.
Okay, so it defines the rights of individuals. It defines and protects the rights of individuals. Okay, not all constitutions do that, but most of them do. Okay, all right, Raul.
I can't think of another one besides the 2 they pointed out.
No, this is bad. This is bad. All right, Tiffany, Ilha, help him out. Oh, Manvith, you have one? Oh, too slow. Manvith, go.
Would setting a political structure be one of?
Yeah, I think that's number one. I think that's number one, is it creates the structure of government, right? Or the architecture of government. It tells you what the government's supposed to look like. Your government has this many branches, and this legislature has this many houses, and this many senators, and this many representatives, and each state gets this many people, and this, like it tells you what the government's supposed to look like. Okay, so it tells you what the government's supposed to look like. It tells you what kind of laws can be made. It defines and protects the rights of individuals. Okay, here, I'll give you a couple others. It also defines the checks and balances in the system. The checks and balances in the system. Okay, and last but not least, and this is one that students oftentimes ignore because they don't think it's that important, but it really is it gives a cultural mission statement, right? So it defines cultural identity and cultural values. Okay, South Africa needs that. Because even if you tinker with the apartheid constitution, if you tinker and tinker and tinker with it, and you go through every single law and you just cross out the word black, right? And you just cross it off and you just say, all right, good, right? You're still dealing with a fundamentally racist government. You're dealing with a government that was built on racism, and you're just putting a bunch of Band-Aids on it, right? That's not going to work. You need to tear it down and start over. Okay? All right, let's deal with our last one, cultural stuff. All right? Culturally speaking, what do we need to do? Who can go? Who can give me some cultural stuff? Who haven't we heard from much? Let's go Wentao, then Zong. Wentao and then both Michaels. All right.
So one thing we should probably fix is the what's it called? Social Darwinism. Belief in social Darwinism.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put a line through it because we want to get rid of social Darwinism. Okay, let's go Michael Liu, then Michael Zahn.
In terms of like the psychological damage that the Black people had, it's like to restore the pride that like people have in their cultures, like the Zulu tribes and stuff.
Okay. Tribal. All right, so we're trying to restore tribal identities like Zulus and Xhosa and Pedi and stuff. That's a really, really important one. That's good. The other 2 classes missed it. That's a good one. I want you to also include here tribal languages. It's going to become a big priority for Black South Africa that they want their tribal languages to be revitalized, right? They want it taught in schools and, you know, published in books and stuff like that. Okay, Zong.
I couldn't really think of a good one, but like this one kind of seems like counterintuitive. But like in America, Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about like working together, so I guess like assimilation to an extent or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna say change views on race. I don't like the word assimilation because assimilation means that you're like erasing someone's culture. So that's not what, I don't think that's what we're looking for. But we do need to change the view on race, right? You need to convince white people and Black people that they're equal. You need to convince them that. And it needs to be so convincing that it's something that little children just learn without having been taught it, right? That's hard. It's really, really hard. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert right now. That's the thing South Africa has failed the most at, right? And it's also the thing the United States has failed the most at, I would say, right? Like it's extremely difficult to fix that problem. But Michael, you're absolutely right. It needs to get fixed. Okay. One of the ways that it needs to get fixed, I'm going to give you a specific one, is we need to deal with media portrayals of race. Portrayals of race in the media. This is a really important thing, and it may seem like it's kind of silly at first when you start talking about this, but it's really, really quite important. If you think about this in the United States, gay rights was basically like a non-issue in the 1990s. It basically like almost didn't exist, and it was like culturally accepted to like beat up gay people and stuff like that, right? But today, that's quite bad. That's quite outside of the realm of normal behavior, right? I remember having teachers in my classroom tell me that it was okay to beat up gay people because they were insulting God with their existence. I had teachers teach that as a lesson to me in my class, right? That's in the 1990s. One of the big reasons why that cultural idea around homosexuality changed in the United States is because they started showing gay people on television. They started showing gay people in television shows and stuff like that. And so people started seeing it every night on their screen, and you watch a couple of shows and then you're like, oh, I guess that gay guy's pretty funny. He seems pretty nice. Maybe the gay guy down the street's an okay guy too. South Africa does this with race. So in the 1990s, they're going to start requiring TV shows to show interracial friendships and interracial workplaces, right? So it's like The Office, but you're required to have like 3/4 Black, right? Or something like that, right? They're starting to put regulations on there that any kind of television show must show racial harmony, right? You start showing interracial couples on television. You start showing them in movies and stuff like that. Television's more important because it repeats over and over again, right? They're also going to do the same thing with sports. They're going to force sports to integrate, right? Again, it's something that seems silly, but it's not, okay? All of this is leading into one really, really big question that we haven't solved. And the question is, revenge. Revenge. Yash, you mentioned revenge earlier when we were talking about like law enforcement and stuff like that, I think. You used the word revenge. South Africa is a country that's been traumatized. It's a country that is seeking revenge. And Nelson Mandela is like barely holding on to the country in a way that he's desperately trying to keep the entire country from seeking revenge on the person down the street. Okay? In order to get revenge, in order to prevent revenge, you need justice. You need to bring someone to justice. You are never going to rest knowing that your son's murderer lives down the street. You're never going to rest, right? At worst, you'll be psychologically traumatized, right? Or at best, you'll be traumatized. At worst, you're going to go murder that guy in his sleep, right? Like you're never going to be able to move on. Okay, you're not going to be able to move on until that guy has been arrested and put on trial. and punished, right? You have to be satisfied that justice has been served. Okay? When we start up on the next class period, we're going to be dealing with what South Africa actually did to tackle these issues. Cool? All right. Okay, we have two things. You have a discussion that's dealing with one of South Africa's solutions, and then there's an assignment on Canvas called the South African Constitution, right? And both of those assignments are due by Monday. Those are the last two assignments of the term. Plus, we'll collect notes next week. Okay, and that's it. And then the term is over. Are we good? Do you guys have questions, comments, problems? We're good. If you don't have anything, you're good to go. I'll see you later.